There we go. And we are broadcasting live. I tagged Seth in it, so we are good to go here. You're all good?
Yeah, I'm all good. I still actually don't see on your timeline. It might just take a second to pop up.
Double check we're in here.
There we go. Alex is live now. There we go.
We're all set. We are live. So we have a little surprise. We have a surprise in store. You and I talked about this a little bit earlier. We're actually going to be buying Seth Price, your new book. We're going to start things of that nature, which hopefully will be fun. But I'm actually going to share my screen right now. I'm going to take us over to Amazon. I'm going to buy the book on Kindle because it's available today on Kindle. We'll talk a little bit about it, review it a little bit, talk some marketing and branding and that sort of stuff. But I'm excited to go do this. So let's buy this live. All right.
Cool. So Alex, I know that I know you're sharing your screen right now, but I know you had the opportunity to kind of work with Seth a little bit behind the scenes, and you got like a pre-release copy of it. So I know we were talking about this before. This is like a really good opportunity. I haven't read the book yet, but I'm really excited to kind of hear what you thought about it and kind of how it was put together. I think this is a really cool interview we'll do here.
Yeah. So. I was lucky to sort of get invited. Seth and Barry did a thing where they sort of had a launch team where they got a bunch of people that were, friends of theirs and things like that together, started a Facebook group around it, and then, kind of did some behind the scenes stuff, some pre-release stuff. So I was able to get a copy of the book early.
Very cool.
And it, it was awesome. So, I've read it already, so, but I am still going to buy this copy on Kindle, so I have a copy there and available. Plus, it's always good to support friends that way. So,
absolutely.
Before we get too far into that, I'm actually going to go do this. Let's buy this. All right, buy now with one click. How easy is that? $2.99. I can't think of a better deal. Sorry, over here. Thanks, Alex. There we go. Kindle Cloud Reader. There it is. All right. It's just that simple. I mean,
that's pretty amazing. That's actually that simple with Amazon.
Right?
It's pretty ridiculous.
That's how simple that was. It was one that I was about 2 clicks into your Kindle library and reading it, and there we are in the foreword.
Awesome.
So, what was that? Not even 30 seconds? I don't think the minute even switched over there.
And I know you're an Android user, but I obviously have iOS. So one of the reasons why I love Kindle is obviously they have apps on all your devices, right? Whether you have iOS or Android. And the cool part about that is not only can you read this now on your computer, but you could read this on any device that you have. You can pop it on your iPad. Wow? You have an iPad too? I forgot you went rogue for a second on the iPad.
I got to test on every device, man. I can't. You know how it goes when you're dealing with the mobile world.
Yep.
But yeah, I deal with most of my Kindle stuff on the iPad. You're right. You're absolutely right. Let me stop sharing screens here. Awesome.
Okay, cool.
So as you saw, we just bought the book. It's a fantastic book. I'm a big fan. I think now we can get into a little bit more of why we like it, why it's helpful to folks, why I would even suggest it to folks pretty much at any level. It's kind of nice that way, in that no matter what level you're at in terms of your branding or marketing, whether you're starting tomorrow or have been a seasoned vet for a long time, you can really pretty easily jump into this book. In fact, my cousin, Andrea, who's down in the D.C. area, just got her real estate license 4 months ago. It's second career for her. And we're talking the pre-release and some of the stuff was coming up. I actually tagged her in the post because I kind of said, look, if you're getting started with a brand new site, or you're getting started with, this, and you want a really good rundown on almost bullet point style of sort of best practices going into it, and the things that you need to cover. Right. This is a good place to start.
So let's back up a quick second here, and obviously us being in the real estate tech world, we obviously know who Seth is and Playster. I know you have a good relationship with Seth. Why don't you give us or the people watching at least a little bit of an overview of who Seth is and what he's done in the companies he's with. I think it'll be good for people to kind of understand not only him, but then we can talk a little bit about what the book is about and if it's strictly real estate related and whatnot.
Sure. So Seth, as you said, is with Playster. I'm going to go actually look up his exact title because I tend to be one of those titles are.
Yeah. Title's just a title.
It's who you are, not what it says below your name, right?
Right.
VP of Industry Relations at Playster. For those that don't know Playster, it is one of the largest technology companies within the real estate space at this point. I know they have a partnership with NAR. I think they just, what was it, 50 million in funding, the additional funding that they just picked up?
Some crazy number.
Ridiculous.
Yep. And they do,
I don't remember exactly.
I don't know what the number was, but it was one of those, those stupid numbers where it gets to a point where it's just yep, they're good.
Yeah, exactly. They've serviced, tens of thousands of people in the industry.
Right.
And Seth has been, there forever. He has a long history in the industry. Where I know him from is actually kind of the speaking circuit. I was speaking where he and I first really met. I mean, I knew his name and sort of reputation prior to that, but we met at an event in Calgary, actually.
Oh, interesting.
We were up there doing an event for, funny enough, the people putting on the event were Virginia Munden and Kelly Scarr.
Okay.
And Kelly, earlier today, I did a podcast. He interviewed me on a podcast that he does for his brokerage for real estate, like a real estate podcast. And it was all about data security and whatever. So kind of a funny sort of small coincidence there. But I met him speaking up there and talking about branding and talking about content and the value of providing and delivering valuable content, how far content can go if you are providing valuable content to people, stuff like that. And was certainly impressed with the presentation when I saw it. So we got a chance to kind of catch up and chat afterward, and friends since. So
very cool. Very cool.
Yep.
So you have an opportunity, obviously, to have read the book already. I understand it's done differently than a lot of these other marketing books out there, right? I think you were kind of telling me before, the way the chapters are done and everything. It's the A to Z kind of guide to marketing, and the way the two people who wrote the book, Seth and Barry, they kind of did it was they went through the actual alphabet. It was like A is for this and B is for that. How was when you were reading that, kind of how did that play into the way you not only read the book, but maybe how the book meant a little more to you?
So the way it's set up actually did change my perception of it to some extent.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is I think with a lot of books, and you and I have read, God, how many different business books at this point, right? We're always
just a few.
Have you seen this one? Have you seen it? Right? So
yeah.
I think the real difference in this one, and hopefully, I'll be interested to get your take when you read it, is because it was set up in that ABC style and set up the way it was, it seemed a lot more like it lended itself to being a reference guide.
Okay.
Beyond just being this sort of story that takes you through the whole book, and by the end of it, you're like, well, wait, where was that?
Right.
I remember, even .com Secrets, for example, fantastic book. I mean, eye-opening in many ways for both of us. But I remember you and I sitting and going, well, how would we do?
Where exactly was that?
Right. Where exactly was that? How would we do this funnel? How would we do this marketing thing? How would we, that sort of stuff. And I think with this, it was set up in a way where you could pretty easily go back and turn around and go, hey, that was in this section. I can go back here and quickly reference it and work through it, and use it, really implement it, which I think is
gotcha.
huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, is it more of a real estate related book? Is it kind of geared towards a real estate agent, or is it more of a marketing and business book, just kind of in general?
Marketing and business book, definitely.
Okay,
It's
cool.
definitely on the general branding, content development, marketing side. I mean, it certainly lends itself to real estate, in everything that they talk about, because
Right.
you have to do this in a lot of levels. And in fact, in real estate, it almost lends in a further degree than it does for some other businesses. Because if you think about it, a lot of businesses are single tier branding,
Right.
right? Where it's like a company has their branding and that's it. Where
Right.
in real estate, you might have 3 different brands within the
Right.
same. You're trying to manage a company brand, a team brand. We can go 4 brands. You're trying to manage a franchise brand, a company
Right.
brand, a team brand, and then an individual agent brand.
Right. Right.
Stacked on top of each other somehow. So, yeah.
It's actually crazy when you think about it and how difficult that actually is to accomplish.
You know what? Let me turn this around on you. Give me an idea what that's like.
So,
I mean,
it's interesting. So obviously, we don't do like the team branding. Obviously, by law in New York State, we have to use brokerage branding on anything we put out, either print or internet. The brokerage logo, and I think the address and phone number also have to be there. But I guess in what I do in my market, it's so niched where there's only about 20 guys who sell, or 20 guys and girls who sell foreclosure on Long Island, get the listings from the banks. So, really it was about building me. They don't necessarily care who my brokerage is, or if I had, this big team or small team. They don't necessarily really care about it, because all they care about is, okay, Anthony's the guy I'm dealing with. And they don't care if I have 5 agents under me or if I switch brokerages. They cared about working with me. But from a general real estate agent perspective, especially on the team level, and teams have gotten so incredibly popular today. I was actually talking with Jesse from Call Action last night. I think I mentioned this to you earlier today. And we were kind of discussing that. We were discussing teams last night, and it's funny. The average team that he's seeing is right around that 5-person team numbers being the sweet spot. But because teams have gotten so popular today, you're seeing these teams with 10, 15, 20, 30 people on them, and that's a business in itself. Right? Like they're working on this franchise brand, this brokerage brand, and then they actually have a full-on business where if they said, I'm with ABC Realty and I want to go to DEF Realty, they are moving, 20 people over, and they all have to come with them.
Operations, executive assistants.
Oh yeah, transaction coordinators, the whole deal. It is.
Right.
It's crazy.
They have their own CRM systems for parts of this, their own lead systems, their own domain names, their own emails, their own.
Oh, yeah.
And I think, again, it sort of goes back to the book, right? And our central topic here, which is at any level within real estate, you're managing, at least one brand.
Yeah, at least. And in most cases, I would say at least. In most cases, I would probably say 2, because you're really always worried about the broker brand to stay in compliance. And then more importantly, you're worried about your own brand. You're like, if I leave, I want people to know me, not the brokerage I was at.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can't tell you how many folks have, gotten into the brokerage email, for example.
Yeah.
They leave the brokerage, their email's gone.
Yep.
Stuff like that.
Yep.
But I also get the other side of that. I mean, you and I both do. Having run businesses, having people just free on their own email platforms can be a liability for the business itself. Yeah,
and it does. It lends a huge liability, especially to the brokers, because the whole concept behind being a broker is everything that's done is essentially in your name. Whether you have 5 people working for you, or 500 or 5,000, everything's being done in your name, and to not have almost access to every email in and out, every text message in and out, and all the information and communications that go back and forth. Ultimately, the broker is responsible for it. So, I understand the difficulties there from the brokerage side, and how tough it can sometimes be for an agent to kind of grasp the fact that, listen, yes, I'm the one listing the houses and selling the houses and doing all these things, but ultimately the broker is fully responsible for every single thing that happens. So, the compliance issues are just insane.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's, I don't know, kind of amazing.
It's interesting, especially when you think about, these brokerages that have, like I said, it's one thing to have a, 25 person or 50 person, relatively small brokerage. But when you go into, some of these brokerages, some of these Remax offices and Keller Williams offices, hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of agents, out of a single brokerage. It's the largest brokerage on Long Island has about 1,200 agents. And, it's crazy to think the amount of liability that the broker there has at any given time. It's almost scary to think about. One person makes a mistake, 1,199 other people are directly affected by it.
Oh yeah. Well, think about this. We were talking about this actually in the podcast earlier today. It was a thing on digital security. Sony got hacked a couple of years ago and released 40 million people's usernames and passwords because they were saving passwords in plain text. And the way that someone got in was one of their employees clicked one link in one spam email that unleashed a virus into their network and corrupted everything, and 40 million accounts later. I mean, that's you think about that at a brokerage level, and then you go, well, they're using their personal emails, but they're sort of their own business too. On the other hand,
right.
A lot of these agents really are their own business, even though they might work for whatever brokerage.
Right.
So it's, I don't know, it's just an interesting divide that way. One thing that I was just thinking about in terms of the book, and one thing I'm going to be interested to get your take on is, how I mentioned it's sort of like that bullet list, reference guide kind of a thing. One thing I noticed in it that I think you'll have fun with is each of the bullets, right? It's like someone said, okay, create a reference, say it's, whatever letter of the alphabet, create a bulleted style reference of all the things that you need to know. But instead of them being bullets, every couple sentences or short paragraph or whatever are these sort of incredibly nuanced comments about whatever topics.
Interesting.
And it's interesting because it sort of lends itself to a lot of different levels that way. And what I mean by that is I noticed a number of things in there that I feel like if, unless you have a background in marketing to some extent, you may not get the first time that you read it.
Gotcha.
But you'll still get plenty out of the book. You'll still get, every bit of value out of the takeaways of the book.
Sure.
But I think for some folks, like maybe us, when you read it, you go, that's 2 sentences, but I know that's really 15 steps.
Right. And that's probably a great point because, and I think that happened to us a lot. And like when we read, like you mentioned before, .com Secrets, right? Like we went through that book and we had all these crazy funnel ideas and this and that. And then when we started kind of putting some of it together, it was almost like, wow, like this seemed like such a simple thing to do. And, 8 hours later at, 2:30 in the morning, we were like, well, maybe we should pick this up tomorrow. So yeah, I can definitely see that. And, I can definitely see that being difficult for, some people to grasp how a short sentence or two can really be hours and hours of time, to actually implement into their business. Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's like I said, I'll be interesting to see your take on it after you've read it, because I think you'll probably see something similar to that extent and kind of go, oh yeah, there's some stuff in there that's
Yeah, I'm going to actually buy the book tonight. I actually we talked about this before too, but I haven't even bought Katie's book yet, so I gotta do that too. I got 2 books to read in the next week or two as well.
I was lucky enough to get Seth's early, and I've already read that one. I was actually talking to Katie yesterday. For those folks that don't know, we're mentioning Katie Lance. Her book just came out as well last week, right?
Yeah, it was last week, and yeah, and I think Morgan Brown also released his book, Hacking Growth, or something to that effect, or How to Hack Growth, yeah, something like that. But yeah, three pretty amazing books have come out, or what should be 3 pretty amazing books have come out literally in the past couple weeks, and it's kind of crazy to think that they all kind of dropped them at the same time. So there's a lot of good information out there right at this moment that going to make a lot of people happy.
what do they say about great minds?
Yep.
Something about, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah,
I don't remember. Better minds than me would remember how that one goes.
yeah.
Do you know much about Morgan's book?
I don't
I
actually.
don't know a ton at this point.
I know that he recently spoke at a conference, I think it was this week, and he was actually just announced also as one of the keynote speakers at ICSF. So, I think the people that have read it have gotten some great information. And again, referencing Jesse from Call Action, he actually was lucky. He got a early release copy of it, and he had nothing but rave things to say about it. So, I know Morgan's, brilliant guy when it comes out. I don't know if you've met him before, but I've met him at, a lot of different conferences I've been to. So I can only imagine what's in there is going to be pretty ridiculous.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think in mentioning that and all these coming out at the same time, I think Seth and Katie's book, at least from what I've heard of Katie's, I haven't read it yet. I'm actually about to go buy it in the near future here. But from what I've heard from some folks, they dovetail pretty well.
Awesome.
And it certainly seems like they would from sort of both sides. I mean, Seth is, I think much more focused around the content creation side of it.
Right.
I mean, to give you an example, right? A is in the book. Well, and I'll give you the teaser here, but A is for authenticity.
Got it.
If that gives you any sort of taste of.
I like it.
And I think it's, I think they jive pretty well in terms of. I know both of their mantras. It's funny. I actually got to hang out with both Katie and Seth when we were all speaking at the North Carolina Association of Realtors event. We got to have lunch together and kind of sit down and all talk. And that was certainly a fun lunch. And
yeah, I was going to say that must have been terrible. Yeah.
Yeah, terrible. Right?
Terrible. Yeah.
I love it when I'm the dummy at the table.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Like, it's such a good moment when I'm like, oh, I love it. Yeah. But, it was interesting to hear both of them sort of talk about that conversation about, creating content, about the value of content, about the fact of the value of connecting with people.
Right.
Around it. And I think this is something you and I even kind of dove into with asocial strategy, which is you're focusing on your interests, your likes. And if you're an interesting person with some interesting likes, you can overlap with other people who are interesting with interesting likes and share in those sort of common concepts and ideas. And it doesn't have to be all real estate all the time. Actually, you'll love this one. So I was speaking at one of the NAR Tech Edge events last week.
Yeah.
And so I'm like talking about social media and working the algorithms and whatever, like what we talk about for asocial strategy. So I'm going around the room and I'm like asking the crowd, and I'm saying, you really want to get things that you're interested in, your hobbies, your likes, your so on. So woman raises her hand, asks a question about content and so on, and sharing something about business. And I said, no, I mean, like, what sort of things are you interested in?
Right.
And she goes, real estate.
Like, no. I mean, like, what do you like?
So yeah. I look at the association, all like the association heads who are right there, and I'm like, wow, you guys have some really dedicated members.
Yeah.
Kind of, it's a joke. But like, I'm sitting there and I'm like, I know you're all interested in real estate.
Right.
Right. I want to know about you. Do you like gardening? Do you like cars? Do you like motorcycles? Right. Do you like food?
Something
who
that's
are
not
you?
Your business, right?
Right. I might like real estate too, but let's be honest, we're not going to connect. Like, unless we're both real estate agents, we're probably not going to connect about real estate.
Right.
Most likely, we're
and
probably
even
going to connect about something else in the world. Right.
Right.
Right. Yeah. So I think it was just kind of interesting to see the two of them talk about it, and kind of then to see a follow up to that of A is authenticity, being
Right.
you, being a real person.
Right.
We always kind of, I mean, you and I always joke about, don't take the social out of social media.
Right. It's and unfortunately a lot of people do. I think that with a social strategy, what we were attempting to do, or we're still attempting to do, is really, help people kind of understand that it's not just about your business all the time, and people want to see you as a real person. So, the A for authenticity part, is a perfect way to describe that, right? It's the people want to know who you really are. Like, they know you're in real estate if they're friends with you on Facebook or Twitter or whatever it is, right? But they don't only want to see that. They want to see the real you. They want to see the pictures of your family and friends, and they want to see that you like, your examples, gardening and fishing and golf and all these other things, so that they can see you as a real person and not just somebody trying to sell them all the time. And that's something that so many people on social media just need to get through and get past. And some people do an absolutely fantastic job at it. And you look at other people and you're just like, everything about this is wrong.
Well, let me ask you about that, because I think you probably even do maybe a better job than I do in that realm to some extent, which is we're both pretty good about being ourselves,
Right.
on social media. We share content about all sorts of topics and what we're interested in and hobbies and all that stuff. But I think to some extent for you, it comes natural, or you're just.
Yeah, I mean, it's
But I don't know. I know you've kind of ramped it up in the last couple of years too. So how do you, like, first of all, how much of it comes natural? Where, where I'm going.
Yeah, I know where you're going. So, I think there's a multi-part to that, and most people probably wouldn't even know this about me. But I, as much social media as I do use, I dislike social media in a lot of ways. So one of the issues that I've seen with social media and seen kind of over the years is that people can pretend to be whoever they are on social media, right? Like, you heard, like, going through high school, right? Like, high school is high school, but when you get to college, you get to be whoever you want to be, right? And then these social media channels came out, and you could still be one person in real life, and you could live almost an entirely different life on social media, right? and it's crazy to think about. Like, when you look at certain people's profiles, you see vacation pictures and you see family gatherings and this kind of stuff, but you might not realize that there's so many other things going on behind the scenes, even though they're only posting about the most beautiful moments of their life. And I get that, but the reason why social media is an issue, especially for young people today, is because all they see is the great parts about people's lives, right? I read these articles sometimes about these young girls and guys, and they follow these Instagram models and these fitness people and all this stuff. And, there's like the highest level of depression in adolescence is going on today, because they see
I read that article
on social media. And it's crazy to think about, because I never had that when I was growing up. When I was a teenager in high school, same with you, we didn't have social media. Like, we might have had a magazine or something like that, but like, we had to convince our parents to take us to the store to get the magazine. Like, and it was a problem. I couldn't just like hop on Facebook to look at 500 people that I might be jealous of in a certain aspect. So I think that social media is so great in so many ways, but I think that it's being misused. I shouldn't even say misused. I think it's misguiding in certain ways, for especially the younger generation, because they don't quite understand what's going on. And when they see these people on private planes and these luxury yachts, they don't realize that Justin Bieber is the only person of his age that lives the life like that. They think that anybody can do it, and it's not realistic for people. So it's
even at that, if you want to go into it, Justin Bieber still rents cars.
Right. Right.
Meaning almost nobody actually owns a Lamborghini these days.
Right.
There are a few sultans and kings in certain places that own Lambos, and a few celebrities here and there. But even a lot of celebrities will just, short-term rent kind of stuff just to support that lifestyle.
Right, just to have it. Like, they're in California, I'm going to rent this for 3 months and this and that. And, and again, it leads to that same thing. They're taking pictures with it and this and that. And it's kind of this fake life that so many people are living. And it's interesting.
Let me ask you about that, actually. It kind of actually goes into a conversation that was the very, very end of the podcast earlier today, and it's kind of funny we ended up there, which is we got into the whole like talking about privacy thing,
Okay.
and privacy of information and privacy of data, and one of the questions that was posed was sort of the future of, say politicians or whatever, because the example was like, Bill Clinton versus Obama in terms of smoking weed. Right?
Right.
Bill Clinton, it was, did you inhale? By the time Obama got along, nobody cared.
Yeah, right.
Right? He's like, yeah, it's in my book. Right? He's like, yeah, it's in my book. Like nobody really cared. And the same thing we've sort of seen even with video, right? Live video like this. Mm-hmm. Remember the 90s and early 2000 when all the video production that was out was this like super high quality, high production value video content. And then reality TV, you've seen this now to and really what we're doing today. Do you see things changing in terms of those expectations of, as people get more comfortable with people being accepting of, will people become a little bit more vulnerable and share maybe not the great stuff online too?
So I say,
will the networks even allow it? Will Facebook filter out all of the negatives? Like,
right. Well,
where do you see that going?
I think that's a twofold thing, right? And I know you're similar to me in this, right? Like I got rid of cable a year ago, right? Like, so I only stream things online and, like on my TV and the whole deal. And so where I capture a lot of the information day to day is obviously on these social networking sites, right? I see live videos and I see all this stuff. And to me, the lower quality non-produced video is the more real stuff to me, right? Like when I look at videos by, major news outlets, and you can tell the production that goes into them, all these things, it almost makes you question how authentic they really are, right? So like us right now, right? We hopped on a Facebook Live. We said, listen, we're going to talk about Seth's book and we'll see where the conversation takes us. And here we are with, now we're talking about live video. And the authentic part of that is that I'm on my computer, you're on your computer. I could be on my phone, you could be on yours. And it's a real conversation, right? So there's a lot less, I think people expect a lot more content from people, but don't necessarily care about the quality of the produced content, right? So what we're seeing even in real estate today, we're seeing a lot of these videos that are coming out, the first person with their cell phone talking over the video, and then they're putting that up as a virtual tour. And obviously there's the Matterports of the world, right? That $5 million listing, they still want that high quality, beautiful tour. But the $300,000 house, you can't afford a $1,000 tour on, as a real estate agent, you can't spend $1,000 on a Matterport tour. So
sure.
The authentic part behind being able to grab your cell phone or grab some sort of video recording device and literally walk through a house or buy a drone for $500 today, like those things used to be thousands of dollars, and the quality that you can even get out of them today is pretty amazing. So I personally see more and more of these type of conversations happening, and I think, for me anyway, part of the reason is, and this, I'm a big Gary Vee fan, and I think what he's doing in his business is very much changing the landscape for entrepreneurs, for small entrepreneurs, big entrepreneurs. And the reason why is it's a platform like Facebook, YouTube. These are platforms that anybody can hop on and they can do exactly what we're doing, right? And he took that and he has millions and millions of followers now, but all he does is have someone follow him around with the camera. He lives his day. He does really nothing else different. He has them sit on business meetings, things that people do day to day. And it's funny because the reality TV series, they came out and were successful because people were like, oh my God, I can see what the Kardashians are doing today, right? People loved it. But if they can now see what's going on with, the businesses and how people are forming partnerships and what's going on behind the scenes for an entrepreneur, that is awesome, right? Like, how are these conversations happening? What kind of negotiations are going on? It was this, did this take 6 months, or was this hey man, let's do this? And it was a done deal. So I think it's really cool.
Well,
the power.
You go even a step further, right? What's happening right now in the comments on this video, not only can people watch and know what's going on in real time, they can interact with you. And I think that's the other sort of real aspect of this is they have now the ability to interact with you and communicate and share. And I'm actually giving a couple shout outs to everybody Seth hopped on like right off because we tagged him in it. Good to see you, buddy. David up in Toronto. Hello from the States. And then we have Fred and either Anna or Anna. I'm not sure if that's friends there. But again, the point is that, people are able to, like you said, be real with you, communicate with you, talk with you. It's live. It's,
right.
that sort of stuff.
Right. And it's it's funny when you see, oh, go ahead, Doug, sorry.
No, after you, go ahead.
So the other part I was going to say is it's funny because these conversations that we have these all the time. Like we've known each other for a while, and we kind of came up with, we were talking about, it was like last week, we were like, hey, let's just start having some conversations just where people can kind of tune in and talk to us. As more and more people begin to do these things, the average person is now going to be able to get in front of anybody, right? Like you catch someone doing a live and you see, oh, there's 30 people on that. If I hop on and make a comment, I can almost guarantee that person is going to see what I said, if not during the broadcast, immediately after when they're checking the comments, right? So it becomes a way for really people to get in front of people that there's no other way to do it, right? You could email me and you 1,000 times, and if we don't know you or you didn't provide maybe some real value immediately in that email, we might be like, okay, well, we can respond to this next week. It's not like an important thing. We're going to drop everything to do that response. And we are, but imagine, someone who has millions and millions of followers and all this stuff like that. You're never getting through that person's email, right? But this gives you that opportunity to get in front of them today and the next 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it may be. So it's an interesting new way to be real with people. And I think that's really the best way to put it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of interesting to just have seen this grow. As you said, we just sort of had the idea of, hey, let's hop on and start having some conversations, which I think opened us up to, doing this at all.
Right.
And then I called you earlier today and was like, actually, the way this happened was I was just about to go into a meeting earlier today. It was like 10 minutes before a meeting. And I told Seth that I was going to write a review on Amazon. Right. So 10 minutes went to go to hop on Amazon, and I looked at it and I was like this. I was like 3 seconds from clicking that one click purchase button and be like, oh, great, I purchased it. I'll go leave the review. Like, we'll be good to go. And right before I did it, I was like, when we did it live, we bought the book live and we talked about it, that sort of stuff. I hope folks like it. I don't know.
Yeah, me too. I think, again, I think if we're consistent doing this and we just, have these open conversations, let people kind of see what we're talking about, what we're doing, I think that people will enjoy it. Let's at least hope so. Let's hope people might care a little.
That's true.
That's all we can ask for.
So you kind of moved on. I wanted to ask you, because you kind of dodged it a little bit, right? We were going down that realm of like you showing you as a real person.
Okay.
You got over the hurdle of like, being a hermit, and then B, like actually sharing real parts about you. And well, I really kind of hate social media in some ways. Left turn. How did you get over the hurdle? Like, how folks?
Yeah,
because I always find this to be a tough thing. Like, how us having the confidence to even hop on a video like this.
Right. I mean, I guess I really got over it just simply I scheduled my life, right? Like, that I used to, before we started A Social Strategy, kind of one of the reasons why we decided to take that plunge was, I consistently posting, consistently doing all these things. And as much as I didn't necessarily want to share every detail of what was going on in my life, I still very much understand how powerful social media is, especially if you want to have a voice out there. I mean, me personally, you know how I feel about Instagram. Instagram is by far my favorite network. I post quotes and all this stuff all the time. And I have a pretty decent following. I have about 7,500, 8,000 people who follow me on there. And those are all natural followers. I get 400 or 500 likes. And I mean, for me, I think it was finding the medium that I liked most. I have Snapchat, of course, but I don't post a lot on Snapchat. I might send like a few to like, family and friends direct, but I don't really post on my story too often, I guess. But you know what I do? I look at other people's stories, right? I kind of want to see what's going on there. And I just found Instagram to be kind of that medium for me where it was very quick. It was easy. I could scroll through pictures. And I guess Facebook has kind of taken that turn as well, where there's a lot. Facebook obviously used to be very text heavy, right? It used to be a lot of status updates and all that kind of crap.
Mm-hmm.
And where that's kind of taken a turn, like even the status updates you do today now come up in like the picture with the words on it. So I think that the way they're changing the perception of Facebook is going to make more and more people kind of want to be more active on it. And not that I'm not active, I'm not a huge poster on my own wall. I'm more into groups and that kind of stuff. So I think really just getting over it was just doing it, knowing that it's something I had to do for business and just having to do it. There was no choice in the matter. I couldn't be like, no, I'm not on social.
Sure.
I'm not there.
You could, like a few dinosaurs, but what happened to the dinosaurs? So question for you on that, though, in terms of Instagram. Did you see the article last week about Instagram versus Snapchat?
I did. Yeah. So it's interesting to me. I'll tell you something funny. Hold on,
before we get there, the reference for the audience, right? It says last week, an article came out that Instagram stories have surpassed Snapchat in terms of number of users.
Number of daily active users, which is
daily active users.
Right.
Sorry, daily active. Which the reason I say that is the only stat Snapchat gives is daily active users. They don't have stats beyond that, so we can only match it to that. But yes, daily active users has surpassed. So the floor.
Okay, so I think that you obviously, I'm sure a lot of people on this know that Snapchat recently IPO'd. They raised, I don't know, $30 billion or $25 billion and whatever it was. I don't understand personally how anybody could have invested in a product that is so easily copied and has been actively copied by the largest social media network in the world. There's no other way to put it. Facebook
who owns the second and third largest social media companies in the world.
Right. Like Instagram's story. So if you don't know this already, people watching, Instagram is owned by Facebook. It was bought 5 years ago for $1 billion. Within 3 years, they're saying value of Instagram is about 20 to 25 billion. And
best
a lot
$1 billion.
Right. If I just had $1 billion, that would have been a great investment for me. But I think that it's interesting. Here's an extra $1 billion laying around. But I think it's really interesting that so many people have jumped on, and this is kind of like that bubble aspect that happened years and years ago, right? They were like, oh wow, a lot of users, new IPO, let's jump on it. But if you take down just the fact that it was a tech IPO that people actually cared about, the shareholders have zero voting rights. They lose revenue every month. They've raised a ton of money, and they have no real plan to monetize except selling Snapchat spectacles. And I know they have advertisers and that kind of stuff, and their advertising base is growing. But as a Snapchat user, and I have a ton of friends that are Snapchat users, I don't know any of them who ever look at a Snapchat. Nobody goes to discover to find out what ESPN is advertising. It just doesn't happen, right? You go to your friends, you check them out, and that's it. So I just don't see the long-term value of Snapchat and how they can sustain any sort of price for where they are and where they want to be, especially with Facebook literally eating their lunch day after day. Facebook has stories now. It's like insane.
I know, and it's funny to me that you know what? Actually, let's back up. I'm gonna connect this back to the book.
Okay, let's do it. Here we go.
You ready? You ready for that? You ready for this one? Because it's happening. All right.
Okay.
So it's interesting when the main competitive advantage of about Snapchat, right? I love it. Seth says, I'm with you about Snapchat. I think Facebook is going to eat their lunch. Yes, they are. So
Completely
if you think
go.
about a company like Snapchat, right? They're competitive, they aren't monetized.
Say that one more time because you had like a 4-second gap.
Okay. They're right at the critical moment.
Yeah,
Their
I was
only
like,
real
no.
competitive advantage. No cliffhanger. Only real advantage didn't monetize.
Right.
She cut out again.
Yep.
No. Okay. So they did. If you think about it, your friends going onto it and checking out their friends and never going to ESPN or whatever. That's why people were using it, was because they were able to get a functionality they didn't have somewhere else, and they weren't getting bombarded by ads 24/7.
That's exactly right.
The moment that started to change, people are jumping ship. And I think the telltale sign for me was when all the, what was this, like 2 months ago, when all the celebrities started jumping ship, like one after another, when they started going from Snapchat to Instagram, and all of a sudden it was like, oh, the writing's on the wall. Now, here's the book connection. Right? One thing I really did is that it's devoid of shiny pennies.
Okay, awesome.
Like there's no, sort of like I see Snapchat as being one of those, like, it was on the verge of being a real penny, but it's sort of just stuck as being a shiny one.
Right.
That's one nice part about the book, is I don't see any of those where you're going to read something today and then a year from now it doesn't make sense.
So you see a good longevity with this book.
The branding piece, the marketing aspect piece, the follow-up piece, the way the letters might work, the way the managing leads or grouping leads might work. These sort of timeless. They work in marketing today, but they're sort of timeless items.
Right.
What do you do to figure out what the shiny pennies are? How do you avoid the shiny pennies?
I think that's hard, especially when it comes to, like, we'll bring this back to Snapchat, where I fully believe they're a shiny penny. I think it's really difficult because you see all these stats, and I think a big issue with tech companies today is that investors have a lot of money to throw around, right? And you run into the issue that even though they don't understand something, they're still willing to get behind it because they have FOMO, right? God forbid they miss out. It's the worst thing that could have ever happened to them. So I think companies will continue to be invested in, even though investors don't understand them. But I think that in the end, that is going to wind up really biting not only those investors in the ass, but it's going to wind up biting a lot of these future tech IPOs, where if you actually have something that can make a real difference in the world in the future, whether it's 5 years from now, and we might see that being a problem for AI or a problem for robotics in the future, right? Where they can really use the money and the funding, even though they can't be quite understood, and they can actually make a big change. But these prior companies, these apps and these other companies that have kind of taken those dollars that could have been used in other places, I think it's ultimately going to hurt them. I think without investors fully understanding what these investments are before they invest in them is really going to hurt. So to avoid looking at the shining penny or being a part of the shiny penny before it becomes no longer a penny, research, right? Do research. That's it. That's all you can do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, I can't tell names, obviously, of anybody, but I can't tell you how many presentations I saw over the last year of people drawing that. And I'm going, like, maybe you don't want to jump right onto that ship quite yet.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And you pause a little bit on it, that sort of thing. Seth commented and said, setting measurable goals and holding yourself accountable forces you to be suspect of shiny pennies. I think he's absolutely right there. The measurable goals are certainly a key component of that. Now, here's what I mean about the nuanced aspect of that. have a lot of gaps. I think my audio is cutting out for some folks. That's too bad. Sorry. This is what I was saying about the whole thing being nuanced, right? Setting measurable goals and holding yourself accountable forces you to be suspect of shiny pennies. What does that assume that's in place?
I mean, it assumes a couple of things, right? It assumes, first of all, that you were smart enough to make goals, or I shouldn't say smart enough, but you were you were thinking ahead enough to even make goals for yourself, and being able to. And so I think Seth is probably referring to this thing, and I don't know if it's exactly what he's referring to, but we used to have this thing years ago that we called SMART goals, right? Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. And there's some people, like every year I make these goals, and I have monthly goals and yearly goals and whatever it might be, right? And I think what he's kind of alluding to is if you have the foresight to make goals, then you're never just going to jump on the bandwagon and say, oh, I'm going to go along for the ride. I hope it works, right? It's funny, in exactly a great pivot to this is in my news feed lately, I have been seeing all these things for penny stocks for wheat. Right? Don't miss the next 23-cent stock that's going to go to $9. And every single, of course I have to click on them because I'm like, okay, I want to see what this pitch is. Like, how is this going to go? And almost every single one, they reference the one company that actually, they went from like 33 cents to 4, and every single one, it's like, don't miss it. And each one is pitching a different penny stock, and they all reference the only company out of the 300 out there that have done it. Right. And I think that's the shiny penny, right? It's like, what happened once, it's going to happen again.
I love it. Seth says, yeah. My son came to me recently about that penny stocks for the green rush. He's true. It's absolutely true. I can't tell you how many people I've heard about it from folks as well. Funny. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah. The other thing that I was thinking about there, I went the other direction. And I'm glad that's why you and I talk about these things. I think that's why we're good sounding boards this way. I went the other direction, which was, I just thought about it like, very analytically, which is you need tracking. To set measurable goals, you need to be able to measure stuff, right? That's what I meant about it being nuanced is Seth will say something to you like, you need to set measurable goals, but measurable means you need to track
everything.
Your goals. And how do we track our goals? What actual bars do we set? What milestones, what numbers, like what do we equate as to what those success points are without having some sort of tracking, right. Set those measurable expectations for ourselves.
Right. And that's true. And I think what you were mentioning before is sometimes people might not realize how difficult it actually is to measure your life, your social media, your business, whatever it might be. I mean, we know going and putting tracking, something as stupid as the Facebook pixel, which needs to be on every website today, is a mess to put on every website today. It's not just like, let me pop this one line of code in. Like each page has to have the different, type. And if it's a conversion page, what's the conversion amount? And it gets to be a lot of work if you have a big site.
Even if you have a small site.
Yeah. Yeah.
We manage stuff like this full time.
Yeah. Yeah. It does.
In reality, I'm just thinking about it in terms of data, right? Like for us, when we start tracking and talking about, we're talking website usage,
mm-hmm. App usage,
and all the engagement numbers around that,
mm-hmm.
Right? Lead number, what sort of lead bringing in from whatever sources.
Mm-hmm.
Once you're talking about and click-through rates, you start
mm-hmm.
talking about how many people have opened and clicked through on your emails.
Mm-hmm.
When you and I are then running multi-part sequences, then you start figuring out, well, what email are they dropping off on, if that's
Right.
the case.
And why are they dropping off
You're
there?
tracking all of that.
Right.
Why are they all there? And you're point of sale, point of actual to making money on it.
Right. What are they doing, or what are we doing, or what is the company
all that
doing
data.
that's making it happen, and how do we get there quicker? And then it even goes further with the tracking, right? It's like once you have enough sales and leads and clicks and all that stuff, is what is every page view worth, and what is every unique page view worth, and all that fun stuff. Oh, Alex, it looks like Alex is gone. Oh man. I don't know if I'm still broadcasting here. I don't know how that works.
I'm here.
Oh, you can hear me. Okay. Oh, there, you're back. There we go. Yeah, you got your audio cut out a lot, and then you just dropped off to a blue screen. So I don't know how that looked for the audience.
I can still hear you.
You can still hear me. Okay. Yeah, you're yeah, I don't know. I don't see you. Your computer's having a freak out again. It's okay. It's okay. So Alex refuses to get a new computer.
Hold on, we're good now.
You're good? Okay.
Shut up. I have a new computer. I'm waiting. Hold on. I'm actually waiting on my new computer to get fixed.
Yeah. You realize how that sounds, right? Like, you realize that.
It's literally out to Dell. I know. I hate you. It's in a Dell factory somewhere because some company decided to buy a Dell hasn't been great in probably.
I don't know if you guys have this store.
4,
I don't know if you guys have this up in Vermont. We have this thing down here. It's called Best Buy. You like walk in. They have like options, different computers you can get.
You buy them.
You could just like you could actually walk out with the computer from there. It's this crazy thing. Or if you actually wanted to get really crazy, you can go to like, I don't know if you've heard of this company. It's called Apple.
Okay,
you could go to their store.
No. Do I want a computer that's going to crash just as quickly? No, thanks. No.
I love my Macs. You know me. I'm a Mac guy.
Am I? No, I know. Yeah. Thanks. No, I know I need something new. I'm. The thing is, the computer that I was given from the last group is high end. Like, I'd be spending some significant dollars to replace a laptop that does all of that.
Right.
And I want it fixed. And you know how frugal I am. So this works.
Yeah, it'll work.
It'll work so far.
Sometimes video cuts out, sometimes audio. It works. So anyway, yeah, way off topic here, but yeah. So obviously, I'm excited to read the book here. I'm actually going to go as soon as we get off of this. I'm going to go buy it. I'll probably buy it in a hard copy as well, just because sometimes I like having the actual book. But I'm going to get the Kindle copy so I can actually start reading that tonight. But any other takeaways you want to add? Just before we wrap this up here.
On Kindle today, definitely go pick up a copy. I think it's worth it. I wouldn't recommend it. I mean, I'll be honest, I wouldn't recommend it to a family member if I didn't think it was going to help them in their business. And I certainly wouldn't be, recommending it to you otherwise. So I would definitely go read it, check it out. It's a great book, but I also think it's a great reference manual, and I think the sort of takeaway I have from it is it's not just a book that you can use, but if you get tricky with this and kind of get interesting with this, I think it's a book that brokerages and larger companies can work with their agents and work with, their teams or marketing teams or groups like that, using a reference style sort of book like this that's different than a lot of the stuff that you and I read in terms of business books.
Very cool. Very cool. So I'm excited. I'm excited to read it, and hopefully I'll be done with it in next couple of days. Maybe we'll hop back on, and I'll give my take on it, and we'll go from there.
I'd love that. After you've read it, we should hop back on here, do a follow up on it, and kind of see what you think.
Sounds good, man. So,
awesome.
All right, I gotta run. I gotta run for a little bit, but I'll touch base with you a little later. And all right, buddy.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'll talk to you later on. Thanks to all who joined.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Have a good night.